Okay, hello. Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Network webinar series. Today we are joined by Brad Jeavons and Professor Peter Hines. So today Brad will be speaking on the topic of Agile and Lean in sales. Just before we begin, I just wanted to give you a bit of background into the Enterprise Excellence Network, which is an arena for senior lean leaders founded by Professor Peter Hines. And the network includes quarterly benchmarking events at best practice and award-winning host sites. If you would like to find out more, you will receive a follow-up email with my email address and also details of how you can visit our website. So we will be beginning shortly. There will be a 30-minute presentation by Brad, followed by a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free using the questions tab to type your questions in there, and Brad will be able to answer those for you at the end. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Peter Hines, who will just give you a bit more background into what we're doing and introduction to Brad. Thanks, Peter.
Yes, thank you very much, Emma, and welcome to everyone. I don't know if it's morning, afternoon, evening, or night for you. I think, Brad, it's 11 o'clock at night for him. So for me, it's afternoon, and for some of you, it may even be morning as well. So welcome to the session, and I'm going to introduce Brad. I'm just going to flag to Emma that Brian hasn't got sound, so you might be able to try and help him offline while we're just speaking.
So I'll do that.
Just to introduce Brad, Brad I've known for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, something like that, I suppose. And initially we met when I was doing some work in Australia, and Brad was kind enough to host a couple of workshops that we ran, open workshops, when he was working for a company called Winsome, who do PPE equipment. So probably a very busy company roster just at the moment. And Brad was in charge of the lean and agile work there. And he was a very unusual beast, because not only was it some good work that he was doing, but he is actually coming with a sales background, which as most of you know, that lean has been much slower in terms of uptake in sort of office environments, and certainly in areas like maybe sales and marketing, etc. So I was sort of intrigued by some of the things I saw from Brad, and actually took some pictures of some of the things he did, and it appeared in our last book. So Brad is actually in the book here. So so Brad's now spending most of his time helping other organizations doing this type of work. So and he's produced a book, Agile and Sales, which you'll find if you want to follow up on that. So welcome, Brad, and look forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Thanks, Peter. I really appreciate it. So everyone, I'm talking today on Agile Sales and really applying Lean and Agile into the sales organization. It links to a new book that's just been published with Taylor and Francis, which is amazing. And I hope you gain some value from it. It's tough times, but I think in tough times, it's also an amazing opportunity for sales. Customers typically buy in 2 times: when they're in growth and high performance mode, and they also buy when they're in trouble. And that's because they're seeking help. And right now, there's a lot of companies, some in high growth and also a lot in trouble. So there's a lot of people needing help right now. I think it's a great time to amplify a sales approach. There is a challenge that's been happening to sales organizations, but for many years, since about the GFC. And we see in surveys now that on average, customers are 56% through their buying process before they even engage a salesperson. So what they're doing is doing a lot more research on the web, doing a lot more discovery themselves. And what that leads to, it leads to commoditization a lot more, where the final thing to talk about when sales is engaged is price. Also, other surveys have shown that 70% of customers don't believe that salespeople deliver them any value. And that, I'll show you in a moment, there's another stat that sort of shows there is a bright side to it. The largest reason I believe for that stat coming through is because a lot of our salespeople are still selling product. So we're really just pushing product and shoving product at customers. And I think if you think about it yourself, do any of you really enjoy when someone pitches a product at you nowadays? I think that's a thing of the past that we don't want to have to deal with anymore. But a lot of our sales approaches are heavily product pitch type focused still. Find the pain, pitch the product. There is a survey that we've got also that 71% of buyers actually want salespeople to help them. And so there's a slightly different spin to it. The previous stat said that 70% of customers believe salespeople deliver no value to them. But then 71% of them say that they would like salespeople to help them. And what they're saying here is, I believe, is help me achieve my goals, help me overcome challenges I've got, help me achieve my strategic goals, where I'm heading, help me hit my measures. And this is a different approach. This is really where we know that Lean and Agile and Six Sigma have been techniques that have really helped operations and supply chains, marketing, IT divisions really nail results. And I believe that in sales, it can be applied just the same and help both the sales team achieve great results, but also help them help their customers do the same. Talking about getting change in sales teams, it can be difficult. If you think about the typical salesperson, they're experiencing a roller coaster ride. Like there's highs and lows every day in relation to what they experience. Can be highly emotional for them. They are very customer focused typically. So typically you'll find that salespeople are totally driven by the customer and they do want to deliver great outcomes for the customer. They're driven to succeed, but they're also not systematic. So getting change with this type of persona in an organization can be difficult. If we look at the sales leader and change, and also salespeople, I pose that we treat it just like an external customer, but we more treat it as an internal customer. So I pose that the first place to start is voice of the internal customer, that whole concept of seek to understand. If you are in a continuous improvement or business improvement role, I'd pose that the first thing to do is spend time with these internal customers and really understand them, really get into their shoes and understand them emotionally and also value drivers for them. I have found typically that focusing on how can we improve customer experience is a real lever to get salespeople and sales leaders to really change. There is typically a strong passion for amplifying customer experience. Sometimes it can be felt by them that customer experience is sort of governed and determined by operations and other areas, but at least there's that passion for customer experience. It can really help you start to get change. If you do talk about Agile and Lean and Six Sigma, this whole approach, it's ultimately about improving customer experience and through that evening out sales performance and creating more consistent, even high-paced performance. The aspect of systematic approach, like I'm trained now in Scrum at Scale, or the most advanced Agile techniques that Jeff Sutherland and Scrum Inc. are putting out right now, which is amazing. And even Agile, the word seems like it's flexible, it's all over the place, but in essence, the back-end engine of Agile is highly systematic. And I think that's often what gets missed, is that these companies that are achieving amazing things in our world with Lean and Agile, there's a strong systematic back-end engine. The way to get there with salespeople is with small steps. Don't try to take them to complete systematic approach out of the gate. Find the first area to help them achieve and improve, focus on that, and then move on to the next one. It's got to be done in many small steps because it's a lot of behavior change in many cases. The great thing is that I have found through my experience and working with other companies that Lean and Agile and sales fit together beautifully. There's a perfect fit there for the sales team and improvement within themselves, but there's also an amazing fit for truly helping customers. I'm going to explore that with you today and give you some different tips and tricks that are in the book. It is a high-level skim that I'm just covering over a number of topics to give you an insight. You can get a lot more detail out of the book or in further resources that I launch and release. Firstly, I just want to show you some recent stats. And a lot of you will know the stats for Lean, amazing outcomes of business improvement. I just want to talk on Agile because this might be a little bit newer for some of us maybe, is that Harvard have recently done a study and they found that the companies that really nail Agile and DevOps are achieving 60% higher revenue and profit growth over, their nearest competitor. And it's been applied now to all sorts of industries. I'm now applying it to manufacturing also. It is so aligned to Lean, it's not funny. The two are connected at the hip. There is slightly different techniques in both, and both can be applied through the same thing that I'm presenting on today. But there's some great outcomes to be achieved that I'm sure many of us know about. In the book, I talk about the principle side of things, and Peter Hines, who was just on, is a real mentor of mine, and he taught me from day dot when we engage that culture is everything, principles and values inform that. You need the lead behavior, and introduced me to the Shingo model also, which I thank him for. So there's some really key ones that apply to Agile and Lean. They're totally connected. Having a clear vision or just cause, absolute customer and people focus, safety, so both physical safety in an organization, but also psychological. There's a real term of, it being safe to fail as long as you learn from the failure. And out of Agile comes the concept of fail fast. And that is a concept that I apply to improvement in sales. Cross-functional teamwork and innovation is massive in Lean, of course, that we know. It's extremely strong in Agile. And in the book that I write, I pose that the key thing is that when you form a team at the front line even, don't necessarily think in silos. Think, what does your customer need from, my engagement? Okay, they need a salesperson, they need a technical person, they need a marketer. That enables you to start to think differently with the way that you form small teams. Of course, with Lean and Agile, we always talk about small teams and the performance of small teams, 4, 5, 6 people. But that team I write about in the book, it doesn't necessarily have to be full of all salespeople. It can be cross-functional if that cross-functional team is going to deliver fast and more rapid Agile outcomes for customers. Process flow and quality at the source. This is a big problem in many sales teams that I see where they don't have quality at the source. There's a lot of stops and checks and measures and things they have to go through to try and get the job done because it's not quality at the source. Experiment continuously and rapidly with flow, really getting that continuous improvement thinking going and systematic approach, scientific thinking, I should say. Make work visual and then seek perfection because you'll never get there. So I believe, and I write about in the book, that the principles are so important. And I'm going to talk about the Agile sales systems now that sort of help to bring those principles to life. But of course, they don't do the whole job. That cultural focus is so important. So I'm going to present to you today on 4 systems for excellence in sales. The first one is focus the organization on the right thing, or focus the sales teams on the right things. Execute on this focus, amplify customer experience, and lead the journey to success. So I'm going to cover those. And I want to, first of all, before I get into this, I'd like to just pose a quick survey to you all to see how many of you actually have Lean and Agile or Six Sigma being applied into your sales team, and your sales team actually using these techniques with customers. So Emma, if you don't mind posing that quick survey.
Yeah, Brad, so I've just launched that poll. So if you're able to select yes or no to, is your sales team currently incorporating enterprise excellence into their team and approach with customers? Thank you. Okay, Brad, so 31% voted yes and 69% no.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Everyone, thank you for that. That allows me to really gauge what I go into here. So I want to show you some results. So for those that haven't started doing this as yet, there's some amazing results. Like I worked with a retailer in cameras, high-end cameras, digital cameras. They went from 0% growth year on year up to 70% growth year on year, and they're doing strong through COVID also. So this is amazing, especially when you consider how much digital photography is now done just through your phone. I worked with a packaging company. They've gone from 1% growth year on year. They're actually up to 25% growth year on year right now, and have gone strong through COVID. And IT company, 10% growth year on year, up to 110% growth year on year, and more profitability. So the results are extremely good. It's simple to implement, but it's not easy necessarily to achieve the results. You've got to go about it the right way. So hopefully I can give some good insights on that today for everyone. Let's talk about focus the organization or the sales team on the right things. Of course, the right thing that we know from Lean or Agile is the customer. And I believe that the sales organization, sales and marketing and the whole organization should really start on deeply understanding customers to start with. I love the Pareto principle for this, or run or repeat of strangers, or the 80-20 rule, or however you want to term it. But to me, the Pareto principle, there's a lot of power in just a sales team sitting down and looking at where do we gain our business from. And you'll typically find this plays out, the Pareto principle. But the next step is getting them to apply attribution data to those top customers and trying to understand who are they deeply, even down to cultural traits that they share in common, industries, size of companies, number of employees, whatever attribution data you can think of. Because to me, it's about finding those, the KFC secret spices. What are those secret herbs and spices that have proven successful, and how can you define these for your business? Because I would actually pose to you that if you can define who are these top companies and apply that attribution data, you'll actually find you've got some of the same companies down in your tail of your Pareto principle. Down at customer number 20 or customer number 2000, they actually match that top customer. Now, if you can get your sales team focused on them, man, that's where you get growth rapidly, even without improving much else, because that absolute customer focus and understanding really allows them to start putting their energy into the right place. Now, I was fortunate to be trained by a lady, the ex-marketing manager of Microsoft in Europe, and she trained me on Agile in marketing and sales. And it was amazing training. I was introduced to this concept of the persona. The persona is actually looking at these companies that I've shown back here, who are those top companies, but the most important thing is it's actually the people in there who make the decisions, not the company itself. So if you can define who are the key decision makers and what is their persona. Now, a persona is quite powerful because it looks at the emotional drivers and demographics and really key aspects of a human. Also looks at their value drivers. So it looks at what happens consciously in their prefrontal cortex, but also what's going on in their limbic brain and what is the key drivers there also, their conscious and unconscious brain. It's an extremely powerful tool to help you get extremely deep into customer understanding. And of course, this is very important with salespeople and marketing departments. Once you understand that, a sales organization can then form a cohort or a target list of personas and within companies that they want their team to focus on. And this creates laser-like focus and performance and allows that salesperson to really be clear on what they need to do. The organization can also use the run or repeat of strangers concept to go, okay, what are we going to do for the top customers? Okay, we're going to use in-field salespeople. But then what are we going to do for our repeaters and strangers? Those smaller level customers that don't match the criteria of those ideal large customers. And you can start to think about how you approach that. And of course, the run or repeat of strangers concept is that you should have, typically you can look at one process for your top customers or your top machines in manufacturing or your top products you got to produce, and then come up with a different strategy for the other levels of repeaters and strangers. And it's a really great technique to think about here. Then comes on to Hoshin Kanri, and I write about this in the book, that I believe that's important, that strategy catch balls right the way down to the individual salesperson, just as way we talk about this for manufacturing and operations. That concept that Pascal Dennis wrote about in his book, Getting the Right Things Done, catchball, I think is amazing. And it's been such a key tool and technique for me to help, one, create an organization of empowerment and respect and trust, but also really to get high energy and drive. And so strategy and cultural deployment is critical. Of course, the best book ever written, and my view for this is actually The Essence of Excellence by Peter Hines and Chris Butterworth. And so, yeah, great technique. I think a lot of us online will know about it. If you want to find out more, I'd recommend either of those books I've spoken about. So with that, customer understanding and then strategy deployment and cultural deployment, you get a sales person and sales teams that are extremely focused, and they can then really do great things, because when you've got someone that's not typically systematic, it is so easy for them to get out of control. You know, you often hear of salespeople in organizations called loose cannons and different other derogatory terms like that. It's because they aren't systematic typically, and their world is highly chaotic. And so I believe that an organization, by doing these things I've just spoken about, will really help them, you know, take that high energy they've got and that real passion they've got and focus it like a laser, and then you get great things. So with a sales team, and this is something I find quite often, strategically, I believe it's very important that when catchball's done and strategy and cultural deployment, that the salesperson gets to define what the purpose of the organization means to them, and also what it means to their customers, because this helps them elevate their language. It hopefully builds some passion and pride even further in themselves, but also helps them communicate this to customers and build stronger relatedness and bond. Who I've got here on the next step is understand their culture and what their culture means to them and what their key behaviors are that would really help them achieve and grow and live their culture and achieve excellence. Where, for me, is the just cause? Where are we going? What's our vision? And what is the just cause behind that? And if they can define that in their language too, and what that looks like for their team and for themselves, this can really fuel the blood and get a lot more focus and a lot more energy. The how is very important. I meet a lot of sales teams and salespeople who don't truly know their point of difference. If I had $1 for every time I was told by a salesperson that our point of difference is our relationships and the relationships we build with customers, I would be a millionaire. But if you think about that, I've got 1 million salespeople telling me that their core competence or their unique proposition is relationship. It can't be. There's got to be, when you've got that many people saying it, it's not a point of difference. And so helping the sales team really understand their point of difference as an organization and what this means to the customer, you know, the how we're unique and what that means valuably to the customer, that's extremely powerful. The final two whats is, the first what is, what does that sales team or sales organization or salesperson need to focus on to improve strategically themselves and apply lean or agile thinking to? And the other what is very important. Peter Drucker back in the 50s said that most organizations don't know why customers buy their product. The organizations know what product they make and what product they sell, but they don't know why the customer buys it. And I call this what the purpose of the product is. So if you think about it, in today's world, there's companies I've worked with who sell toilet paper. And selling toilet paper is highly commoditized, highly, you know, competitive and price driven. But if you think of the job that toilet paper and hand cleaner and sanitizers do, it's about hygiene. The purpose of the product is hygiene and safety. And when you talk hygiene and safety, more senior decision makers are willing to talk to you, and there's a lot more value in that conversation. And that's an agile technique that I write about a lot in the book. So everyone, there's a survey that you can do in your own time, or you can do it now if you want, that just allows you to rate different criteria that I've covered and how your organization's positioned. But Emma, do you mind launching a survey? I'd be keen that everyone just ranks their average score 1 to 5, how they are in this area of topic I've just covered.
Yeah, okay, so that's just being launched. So if you can please select your answers on average, where would you rank your sales team's ability to focus on the right things culturally and strategically? Thank you. Okay, so just waiting for the last couple to come through, Brad.
Thanks, Emma.
Okay, so no one voted very low, 7% voted low, 79% voted okay, 7% good, and 7% great.
Wow, that's awesome for the ones that are in great. And yeah, good to see there's room for improvement. Okay, so if I move on to now execute on this focus. So once you've got, of course, the sales team or the sales and marketing organization highly focused, it's then about executing it. And I think most plans, it's not the planning that's a challenge, it's actually executing the plan that's a challenge. So I'm going to talk about that. In the book, I write a lot about the concept of Scrum, and in Lean, we know it as huddles or daily stand-ups or whatever other title toolboxes it goes by. But to me, this is the essence of really executing strategy and also cultural improvement, is that concept of Scrum. Now in Agile, I write about in the book how the Scrum team doesn't necessarily have to be a team of silo-based salespeople. So for example, in Agile, the concept is the team of 5. You know, there's been a Harvard study done that shows that the highest performing number of people is 4.8 in a team. I don't know where the 0.8 comes from, but if you just go 5, and I do have organizations I work with where the right team of 5 is not all salespeople, and this is teams selling technology. The right mix of teams in the Scrum team is actually one hunter who's going to hunt and drive new business, one farmer who's about retention and growing existing customers, one technical expert, a service technician, and a marketer. And that Scrum team might focus on a territory or a zone or an industry, and it's that cross-functional team at the front line that huddle or Scrum every day to keep driving continuous improvement and innovation for themselves and for their customers. Just note that I believe that the team formation should start with the customer. What's the customer need? What's the customer want? Right, let's look at our right Scrum team formation to then deliver on that. This is a sales team that includes marketing, huddling around in a work area. This is prior to COVID. So you've got, they use a mix of electronic and manual boards. Of course, everything is traffic lighted and visual. Going by Peter Heinz's philosophy of the 1-3-10, where within 1 second you can know where you're winning and losing, within 3 seconds you can know the trend line, and within 10 seconds you can know what the team's doing about it to keep on track and keep moving forward. Powerful concept, Peter. I love that one. It's short, sharp. Most of us will know about it. 5-minute meeting, 10-minute meeting at the max, daily or bi-daily, or at the outlier once a week. And the team in there is looking to drive culture and also drive performance and innovation, achieve their strategic goals. Now teams are shifting virtual. So I see teams using Trello and Microsoft Teams and Planner and all sorts of platforms to create the same outcome, but just doing it virtually through Zoom or Microsoft Teams meetings, you name it. The next concept is considering the scale concept of that is how do we then create multi-tier approach or a Scrum at scale approach through a whole organization? To me, the most important reason for this is to avoid the permafrost concept where you can end up with, you know, a frozen middle management level where communication doesn't deploy down well and it doesn't lead up well. I think it was Harvard came up with the concept of permafrost, sort of freezing through the middle management. And so the best example I can talk about it is Lion Corporation or Kirin, where they have their one-on-ones and these happen weekly. That will inform some elements of the daily frontline team meeting. You know, a person from the frontline team will then go to the divisional meeting 5 minutes after that, 5 minutes after that, cross-functional, 5 minutes after that, executive. So in that organization, within 1 hour, if anything needs to, it can go from the front line to the executive every day and then back down. So it's extremely fast. In Agile, Scrum at scale, you're taking a different concept where basically the middle management is disappearing and you're ending up with these Scrum teams at the front line and they scale up to then an executive action team and an executive meta Scrum that then plays a part of just guiding and keeping everything flowing forward, both from a customer viewpoint, but also a continuous improvement and Scrum improvement point of view. So both approaches really work. It just depends which type of organization you want to form. But I believe the important factor is that there's that real flow of rapid execution at all levels that you have within the organization. Visual scoreboards that we all know about, you know, out of sight, out of mind plays a big part, and that plays a big part with salespeople. With the CRM tools that we've all got now for sales, boy, there's some amazing systems to create great visuality. But my point here is it needs to be there all the time. I think anything wherever it gets brought up just every now and then, it's not effective. Just like in an operation environment where we would have a whiteboard and have all our visuals on there, I believe in sales we needed that those visuals are up all the time on a computer screen or on a manual board, or first thing that comes up on their phone is that dashboard. The lead measure versus lag measure concept is more important in sales than anywhere else, that we focus on the lead measures rather than the lag measures. So in sales, of course, the lag measures are very powerful. The goals, you know, I need to achieve sales results. I need to achieve gross margin and profit. And a lot of organizations become fixated on that, but it's dangerous because the sales team can easily lose energy and really start to falter with that type of focus. To me, the most important factor for sales and marketing organizations in their Scrum or huddle approach and one-on-ones is to really focus on the lead measures. If you can get that absolute focus on improving lead measures in sales, you drive great outcomes. And to me, there's two dials to it. There needs to be a focus on lead measures in relation to improving the volume of them. So doing more networking, more prospecting, more research meetings, more proposals each week, each month, and looking to find ways to amplify that volume by getting rid of waste and being able to do things quicker and faster, but also improving the quality at what we do. And in sales, it's really easy to measure conversion rates. How am I going at converting, you know, from leads to prospecting, from prospecting into leads, from leads into research meetings, from research meetings into quotes and proposals, from proposals through. Looking at that conversion rate at each step of the process can really give some insights as to where people need to focus to help people grow. Where should I apply coaching as a leader? Where as an individual salesperson should I go and seek help? And it's just so clear, but I do come across so many sales organizations where they're not focused on those lead measures. They're more fixated on the lag measures. To define your lead measures, root cause analysis is a great way to do it. Start with the goal or the result you want to get, the lag measure, and then ask what impacts that, what happens before it, and then what happens before that, or why, what drives that, and what drives that. But the important aspect with the lead measure, I believe, and this is where it gets extremely powerful for sales, is where it's based on customer behaviors, not salespeople behaviors. So for example, you could have a lead measure, which is the number of cold calls you make, or prospect calls, which is typical sales measure. That is a behavior of the salesperson, but the customer behavior would be how many customers engaged from your call, how many customers engaged in a conversation, or how many customers then led on to, you know, a connect meeting with you. And actually focusing on the lead measure of the customer behavior is extremely powerful to driving results, because it's ultimately the customer's behaviors through the sales process that is going to determine success or failure. And of course, then it's the salesperson, what they do, that will govern a big part of that behavior. Here's the concept, you know, you need to be able to see your trend line. You need to be able to see really rapidly whether you're winning or losing. So burn charts work really well in sales, and the 1-3-10 rule that I learned from Peter Hines applies very well here. This is a watermelon chart. I find them highly effective in sales and also just general agile approaches. Visuality of improvement that the team's driving, but also it can be daily activities. So out of Agile comes the Scrum concept, where you've got your backlog of things you need to do, or improvements you're running, or the backlog of accounts you're planning to target. And then from that backlog in Agile, each sprint or each set sequence of time. So you might go, okay, I'm going to run a sequence of time of being a week or a month or a day. And you move for that day or that week, you move a portion of those backlog items into the to-do column. And from the to-do column, within the sprint, you're looking to take each one to doing, and you focus on doing one and you get it done. You focus on doing the next one and you get it done. And gradually throughout that cycle of time, which might be a month for the sprint, a sprint is what is typically used as a term for it in Agile. You're looking to move everything from to do through to done and actually track that on a burn down chart too. You can actually track using points. Are you actually on track to get them done over that period of time? This is a really powerful concept for sales and for marketing and for anywhere really. In essence, to lean, it could be that we're looking to take these, accounts or these things we need to do, and we're going to take them through PDCA, and we're going to sweat the Kanban at PDCA and keeping that flow and movement through. I think both concepts can be used. I do find for a sales team starting with to do, doing, done, and having the backlog works really well because they understand that and connect with that more quickly out of the gate. And of course, in this backlog or your to do that you feed in here for a sprint, you can have in there improvements the team's doing to improve themselves and what they do, improve culture. It can be some target accounts they're going to go after, or some key activities they need to do, or an innovative new sales tool or new customer offering. There's all sorts that can go into there. A very important Kanban in sales, but is the pipeline. So every CRM now that I've seen has an opportunity Kanban feature where you can look at opportunities against the buying journey. Now, again, I believe that the Kanban steps should align to the customer behaviors and steps rather than what the organization wants it to be, the sales organization. But of course, the concept of Kanban here is very important, that we have a full even pipeline, and that even pipeline is flowing. Typically in sales, I find this doesn't happen. Salespeople will get a few opportunities in the pipeline, they'll feel really confident, they'll win them, and then their pipeline will be empty, and then they'll start again, and they'll really put some effort into prospecting or generating some leads. And the problem with that is you get a big delay through, and you get a very up and down roller coaster performance. And this is where they get that roller coaster performance that they all complain about. The power here is to sweat the Kanban of the opportunity pipeline or that sales pipeline. And I'll talk a little bit further on about aligning it to the customer's journey and how you do that. So what you end up with is you end up with sales organizations running rapid sprints, so weekly or monthly or daily sprint cycles, and they're driving improvement at every sequence. And they're aimed at their vision or their just cause for the year or for the 3 years, 5 years, and it creates a lot of performance and speed. There's another concept I write about in the book, which is the retrospective. This is a set meeting where the team gets together and they don't huddle or scrum around, their metrics and their Kanban. They're purely focused on what worked well over the last period, what worked well over the last sprint, and what do we need to keep doing, stop doing, and improve. And this really allows the team to keep continuously improving in their own processes. And in sales, that typically doesn't happen. In operations, it seems innate that we're trying to improve our processes every week, every day. But in sales, it's typically not. The retrospective meeting, where you get the team together and you retrospectively look at the last period of time or the last sprint and think about how do we improve, boy, it is powerful because it naturally drives improvement. And if out of that comes actions they're going to put in place, or they're called user stories in Agile. These are user stories of improvement we're going to do and put through that to do, doing, done. Man, that's powerful because you get continuous improvement going in the sales and marketing team. So everyone, I've got, again, a reflection point that you can use in your workbooks that have been sent out. But Emma, do you mind just posting that next survey? I'm keen that everyone just looks on average where you believe your sales team's at in relation to being able to execute and really drive that strategic and cultural approach on those topics I've covered.
Yep, so that's just being launched now, Brad.
Thanks, Emma.
Okay, so we have nobody voted very low, 38% low, 54% okay, 8% good, and 8% great.
Okay, brilliant. It's good to know, everyone, that there's uplift there for you to get. So, and for those that are up in that, great, 8%, that's brilliant. But I think it's a great opportunity for those that are ranked lower. Boy, you have some uplift to get in your organization, which is brilliant. Good opportunity. Okay, let's now look at amplifying customer experience. So in the book, Agile Sales, I write a lot about different techniques that I've learned through my career and through training and events I've been on to really amplify customer experience. So I believe the best way to do this is have a customer aligned sales approach. So this is where your sales framework or your sales process is totally aligned to the buying journey that your customer would love to go through ultimately, and you're continuously improving it to try achieve greater outcomes there. I believe to do this, it's important that you elevate yourself. A sales team needs to elevate themselves above product and price and supply chain typically discussed items and get it up to a higher level with key buying personas and also higher level decision makers. So there's 3 levels of maturity and sort of a elevation that I write about in the book. The bottom level is the level of vendor. This is where a salesperson goes into a customer's account and they talk about their products and they pitch their products and try sell. And of course, it's going to end up about price. And they're typically selling to procurement coordinators or procurement managers. And this is your lowest level. They're beaten up on prices, low margin. It's not really abundant. There's a lot of desperation here. The next level is problem solver. So this is that traditional sales training where we've been trained to find the pain and pitch, the benefits, features, advantages, and benefits. And so we're typically selling to maybe more technical people, slightly higher level decision makers, and we'll be seen as still a once-off type of sales approach where I've got a pain, I'm going to call you in, you might be able to help me, I might still call someone else in to get a bit of competition there. The level I talk about in the book is getting to the partner level. This is where a salesperson and sales organization is able to truly understand their customers' background, history, culture, but also their strategic direction, goals, vision, just, purpose. And they're able to understand that also from the key decision maker point of view. So they're able to understand the background, history, and the directional drivers of all the key decision makers and also their challenges that they face. And they're able to demonstrate that how they themselves and their organization shares relatedness in the background and history. Relatedness builds trust, and that is critical in sales. And it's psychologically known as mirror neurons and all the neurology aspects of it. But if they can show how we share things in common and hey, we've been through that also, and we can show empathy to what you've been through. But then the salesperson or sales organization is also able to demonstrate how we can help you achieve your strategic goals and directions and that vision you're after. Well, that's that partner level, because this is something that can happen year after year after year after year. If the sales team and organization is really geared to stay in tune with that strategic direction and also some of the history, background, and challenges of their customers, and they can communicate to that and sell to that, man, that's powerful. That's where you become selling after sale after sale. Now, to do that, I believe that the best technique to use to start to think about how we do this is customer journey mapping. Customer journey mapping is a bit like value stream mapping, but value stream mapping done with the customer front and center all the way through the map. So what you do is you map the customer's current state buying journey. What are they going through with us? And then what's happening with that? What's our customer facing team doing to enable that? And also we've got a technique to put in there what's happening with the back office. What's the back office doing? The operations to help that or not help that. And you capture what's the customer feeling through this journey? What's their emotional state? And you also capture what are they thinking? And from that, you can then brainstorm as a team ways that you could amplify their feelings and emotions through the buying journey, and also ways that you could amplify the conscious thoughts they have and the value that they're thinking you're delivering. And this allows you to then create a future state map and then really move towards that. And naturally, that future state map will start to elevate the sales team's approach, and it will also start to amplify the customer experience and align our organization's sales approach and even our operations approach to what the customer would ultimately want to go through. And you do need to have those personas in place and really understand your customers deeply before you do customer journey mapping. This is what it looks like manually prior to COVID. I'm doing a lot now electronically with all sorts of companies, from small to the world's largest companies. And I'm doing them all over the world at the minute, facilitating them. And it can be post-it notes or it can be electronic. I just want to show you the result. So here's two examples of companies where they've ended up building a sales process or sales approach that aligns heavily to the ultimate customer buying journey. Both of them are selling to operations. And of course, the factory manager in operations, he or she is typically really sweating factory performance. You know, it's about, in Australia, a lot of the deeper drivers are about survival. You know, it's about our factory being here for the future. It's about jobs being retained and us having jobs for our future generations. That is the emotional driver of a lot of factory managers. And so what are we applying to enable that? Well, there's a lot of alignment to Lean or Six Sigma, Agile techniques. And so you'll see that's why a lot of these seem to be in that PDCA or DMAIC sprint or sprint style cycles. So I just want to show you a video of the result that you're looking for. Let's just listen to this video. This is still early on in the journey of this company, but it'll show you the result. I'm not going to show two videos today just from a time point of view, but let's have a look at this one.
The Efficient Workplace program is a support program that's designed to identify food safety risks, wastes and hazards, and help customers eliminate those. We launched it about a year ago, and we decided to have a live customer experience. So we basically cold called a customer, in this case Tegel Foods, and asked if we could go through the process with them. Tegel's a chicken business. We're always looking at how we can do things better. I got contacted through head office, through the procurement team, and they said these guys from Kimberley-Clark want to come in and do an audit. We went through what we call a pre-pitch statement. We told them what we do and how we could assist their business, and asked if we could present the concept to their key decision makers, and they agreed. The initial presentations, I could see there's some really good ideas, and then the project just grew. Got a life of its own. The walk is really, I guess, the key to this program. What we do is a group of us walk through the facility and have a look at all the different areas and how their process interacts with consumables management. They were people within Kimberley-Clark's group that were experts in their field, and they took photos and asked heaps of questions. Then they came back with honest feedback in terms of stuff that they saw we were doing well and things that we weren't doing so well. We noticed that they were using products that aren't considered best practice in food manufacturing environments. We were using white paper towels for people entering high key areas. Bits of it were falling on the ground. It was costing us a lot of money, and we had people wasting product. So we converted them across to blue. Blue is more appropriate for food manufacturing. It's easy to see. Putting in high capacity systems meant that dispensers stayed loaded longer. There was less time required to refill them and less inventory required to be stacked in appropriate places. They're using our hard roll towel system for drying hands. They're also using some of our X50 wipers for wiping out just general spills. We also changed them over to a high capacity jumbo roll toilet tissue system. We have mold stickers and all sorts of different things about even just how to wash your hands. Kimberley-Clark helped use some of our material, incorporated it into their template, and came up with something which is bold and bright and easy to see.
In terms of behavioral change, we needed to change the habit of using a lot of paper. One training that we did was a hand hygiene training.
Not only did some of the staff have fun and enjoy the presentations, it made a difference. And our customers noticed that too. It wasn't just, we're going to give you some stuff and see you later, and that's going to fix it. It's like, this is a partnership, and we've got some people who will help you.
So the next step here is deep dives, picking a specific area where they want to improve that we can help. And then with that area, we work with people and provide them that continuous improvement.
Pretty happy, really. It's been quite a change when you say Kimberley-Clark and the management meeting, and people know, okay, what's next? I'm looking forward to next stage now too. I'm sure we continue to make some good changes.
So everyone, that's sort of the result that you're after, that type of customer outcome, and you'll see a lot of the lean techniques applied in that one. And likewise, you could have, I could show you a video where it's agile techniques and different ways that they're really aligning to that customer buying journey. Okay, Emma, do you mind posting that last poll? I'm just keen to see where everyone's at in relation to this concept.
Okay, yeah, that's been launched, Brad. So on average, where would you rate your sales team's ability to amplify customer experience and lead the sales journey? Thank you. Okay, so we have 30% low, 40% okay, 20% good, and 10% great.
Okay, that's awesome. So everyone, there's a real sequence of steps to go through to really nail this and get to that high level. So please feel free to reach out for additional data. I'd be really happy to help anyone that wants additional information and support here, because the right steps will really help you nail it. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to talk about lead the journey to success, but I'm just going to touch on this at a high level because I know the Enterprise Excellence Network has so many great speakers on to talk on the topic of leading change and sustaining change. So I'm just going to touch on this briefly. I love the study by McKinsey and Company where it shows that 70% of all transformation programs fail, and typically 35% of it's because leaders don't embrace it. The other 30% is because people don't, frontline people don't embrace it. But if you look at it, it's typically over 70% of the reason is people don't embrace the change. The thing I say here is you need to do change with people, not to people. And the technique and approach that I take when I consult and work with companies is all about how do we involve the people and use the people's knowledge and experience to get the change, not do it to them. And every time I engage a company, I find the level of knowledge and capability in every salesperson is unbelievable. And just bringing it together with some different techniques really allows you to draw out this great, amazing approach for the sales team to take it to a whole new level. They've come up with it themselves, just with some really smart facilitation, and then boom, they're off and going. The reason they're off and going so fast is because they came up with it and they developed it. And so I'd really recommend considering that. Top-down approaches with this to salespeople just do not work. If you're willing to put in 5 years of hard slog to just keep driving it, you'll. The same applies to CRM. So I'll just have my little whinge here. So many CRM packages get shoved down sales teams' throats, and sales teams just do not embrace them. Whereas if it's more done through a facilitated collaborative involvement approach, it always works. And so that's my little rant on that one. I believe that leader as coach is so important here. And, the sales leader or even advanced sales people within the team having a fair portion of their time to really be able to coach and develop their people even further, spend time with them in one-on-ones, be in the huddles, time out in the road doing ride-alongs, observing and understanding, not talking when they're in a sales call. So a lot of the time I see the sales leader talks when they're out in the road with the salesperson, but to me, I believe the salesperson's there to observe and understand and really just seek to understand and then coach. There's so many great coaching models out there. I love the GROW model. And I believe this is such a secret of success. The main thing that I believe stops this is leaders feeling they're too busy and too flat out. And so often getting to the root cause of that and nailing that and then helping them develop as a coach, I believe is the secret of really achieving excellence here. And in Agile, those coaches are, of course, the Scrum Master and the product owners in the Scrum teams, and even team members themselves, and then also cross-functional support teams. So there's another review there that you guys can do on your own time and have a look at these key elements. Leaders' ability to coach and help individuals reach their potential. Your leaders' from all levels attending scrums or huddles, leaders conducting one-on-ones with their salespeople, leaders conducting ride-alongs or in-field visits and not talking and just observing and listening, and leaders using the knowledge gain in all points 1 to 4 to improve themselves and the organization. So you can rank that and look at that down the track. Everyone, I've got a maturity index for Agile or Lean sales. And I believe a maturity index is extremely important because it allows you to measure and track your journey as you go along. And of course, that concept of what gets measured gets done is so important to this. And so I believe that having this maturity index is so important. So if you do want additional information on this, please reach out to me. My contact details are in your handouts that I've sent out or Emma's sent out for us. And also here's my contact details. So please reach out to get hold of the maturity index. I'd be more than happy to share it with you and handle any other questions that come up. And I think now there's really just some time if there are any questions from you guys now that you want to ask me.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brad, for that. Lots of information, lots to take in, and obviously there's quite a lot of further information. Brad's got his website up there if you want to go and have a look at that afterwards. So we've got a little bit of just a few minutes to take any questions. So if you have any questions, maybe you could fill them in the question tab, and then I'll pose them to Brad. In the meantime, we've got a question from Brian. I'm not sure if Brian was having problems on the line, so I don't know if he's still with us, but he's going to watch the catch up anyway. So his question was, why is sales different from other functions in applying Lean and Agile? I'm presuming he means like office functions, yeah.
Yeah, but I believe it's there's no difference in some ways, because if you think of it, why does Lean work so well is because it's designed for people. And why does Agile work so well is because it's designed for people. And so salespeople are people as much as operational people are operations. I think what there is for sales, Bud, is there's just a few different elements you can do because they're actually touching the customer, and they're touching the customer every day, day in, day out. And that's where the difference comes in. The difference comes into that customer touch point and what you can do there to really take it to another level.
Okay, so one thought I had was obviously the nature of sales forces are quite different depending on the industry, and some's B2B and some's B2C and so forth. And some sales forces are, say, largely out on the road and very infrequently in the office. And for instance, the Scrum meeting you showed me was presumably a mostly office-based team. How would things differ if it was a distributed team or an office-based team?
Yeah, but I'm involved in a lot of those meetings with different organizations I'm working with, and what you'll see is, that's my daughter on there, sorry everyone, with a note over the top of it. But what you'll see is them calling in from their car, and they'll be parked out the front of a meeting they're about to go into, and they'll be running the Scrum via their phone or the huddle. Okay. And they'll actually be seeing on their phone the metrics and the measures and the Kanban board. And yeah, it's virtually like their phone is their huddle board. And that's
so it's basically like a Zoom version of a huddle meeting then.
Yeah, it's so powerful. They can be anywhere, and their phone is all they need. And so that's typically what happens there. And in retail, I see in retail a lot of people just using huddle boards. Just using the physical board and huddling around that.
Yeah. So we haven't got any other questions, so I'll ask another one. So what's the biggest problem, difficulty in obviously I've had a chance to have a look at the book, but what's the biggest difficulty in implementing this, would you say, in the sales environment?
There's a lot of the sales cultures I come across in organizational cultures are very top down, Peter. So I find there's this legacy of top down doing change to people. And I'd say shifting that approach to more doing a facilitated change with people and involving them is the biggest challenge. And then the next biggest challenge after that is, I believe, a lot of sales leaders can be just caught up in fighting fires and just flat out with the day job, and being able to bring in root cause thinking and help them shift that to become more proactive and time on coaching and supporting and developing and making their people great. They're the two biggest challenges.
Which is exactly the same in a sort of factory environment, getting the senior people to realize that, if you're head of operations or head of purchasing, that doesn't mean to say you do the important purchasing and operations stuff. But actually the middle level should be doing that, and you should be creating the right environment for them to succeed and improve and coach and so forth. So I guess it's the same challenges you see in other environments as well.
Yeah. I think it's funny because and I know, talking to you, Peter, and talking to so many, great orators and authors in this field, it's everything's about people. It all comes back to that, and so that's where a lot of the commonalities cross over. It's just with sales and marketing, they have this amazing ability to be in touch with customers every day. So it's like this constant voice of customer loop. It could be 5, 6, 7 times a day. And if you think about that, imagine if you had a factory where that factory could be getting feedback from the customer 5, 6, 7 times a day. And that's the opportunity we got with sales, and really to amplify and create amazing speed and improvement. But typically that doesn't happen because a lot of sales organizations, it's sort of every salesperson for themselves. So this knowledge and experience and this iteration loop doesn't happen because there's no forum for them to get together in team and Scrum and really keep driving innovation and improvement as a team. And also because there's typically no limited systems, you don't get that either. So that's sort of a challenge, but I've seen that easily overcome by helping them evolve and grow and implement the right systems and the right cultural traits. But again, the challenge is not doing it to them, doing it with them, and then having the right leadership behaviors.
I mean, the limited work I've done in this sort of sales field, the last thing that salespeople want is a system or a process. It's all about intuition and skill and understanding relationships, and Anyway, we've got a couple of questions come through, so I'll read these out. So one from Jacko here. What is your experience to get salespeople to get them to work more in standard methods and mindset? Same sort of area. Too often, my experience, they tend to work purely on their own approach. How to get back office into this sort of lean and agile stuff as well?
So with the salesperson, I'd say the first thing is to involve them in the change. So I've really had to evolve how I run facilitated events, and I don't come in as a trainer, I come in as a facilitator, but through the facilitation, I'm guiding them, not guiding them abundantly. They know what we're doing, but they're coming up with everything that we're going to do. So that's the first key step. And then the next key step after that is helping to grow the leader in their ability to coach and mentor to process. And there's so many great books, like Peter, your books are amazing for it. But also I love the book, the Talent Code. There's some great research around humans and change, and salespeople are really intelligent people, and getting them onto some of these different orators and authors too, like yourself, Peter, or the Talent Code and different books like that, it can really help them go, wow, okay, so process does play a part. The other thing I'd say, guys, is that every salesperson would have been a musician, or they've been a sports person, or they've had something in their life. And if you just bring it back to, well, what did you do to become a great musician? What did you do? And of course, they're going to say, we practiced. Oh, well, what did you practice? I practiced scales. I practiced this sheet music. I practiced that. And how much did you have to practice it? Oh, all the time.
Okay. And probably they say, and I had a good coach to help me.
Yes. I had this mentor, and this mentor was amazing. And but they're tough. Boy, at times they really told me what for a bit, to get me on track. But man, I knew they cared for me, and they really wanted the best out of me. So if you bring it back to their life or their favorite sporting team, I find that plays a lot too. In Australia, Aussie Rules is very big, and also rugby league. And there's some amazing coaches there who have used process and systems to the T to achieve greatness. And as soon as you start talking to them about that, their favorite team and what they did and how they worked, they go, oh, okay, wow, I didn't realize that. Because when you watch a sporting game, it does just look like this unique greatness and this fluidity happening, you know. But what the viewer doesn't realize is that for days and weeks and months and work, they're coming up with these gameplays and these sequences and techniques that they're using to create flow and performance on the team. And then they got a new opponent this weekend. And so this weekend, we're going to tweak this attack and tweak that attack and tweak that attack, but there's still a process for it. And then they go in. There's a great TV show on at the minute on Netflix, which is about the Chicago Bulls. That's a great one because it shows how when Jordan was playing as a lone sort of wolf, they weren't winning the finals. But as soon as Jordan came into the gameplay and started to practice and play process and systems with the team, they won all their finals. That's a really good one.
I was going to show you this book, well, you and everybody. So this book is worth reading. So those of you that have been inspired by some of the principle-based approach and creating culture and behavior, Shingo, etc. This book is called Legacy by James Kerr. This is about the New Zealand rugby team and how they have 14 principles they live by. And basically it starts with principles, driving behavior, driving a team that's won 82% of its games ever from a pretty small country, most successful country in the world. So that's really worth a read if you get a chance. Anyway, look, we got one more question, and we'll do that one, and then we'll close off. So one from Brian here. How does this apply equally well for the SMEs as well as large companies? Because you might only have one or two sales guys, I guess.
Yeah, no, Peter, it applies just as well. I'm working at the minute with small solar companies who are selling solar panels. You know, they've got a team of 3-4 people. And I'm working with mid-tier companies like Signet and Insignia and these guys who are family businesses. And it applies just the same because they're dealing with customers, you know, and they can go in there and they can be all over the place and not systematic, and they can, you know, or they can take on these approaches and achieve great things and grow into the future. I've seen businesses where their Scrum team or huddle team is only 2 people, but they still huddle every day and they still use those systems to really help them keep focused and drive performance. And boy, they achieve greatness. Like I've seen them improve their productivity by up to 300 to 400% in sales, you know, 600% in one case just by a 2-person. And it's funny, a 2-person huddle can actually achieve higher velocity and performance than 4. You know, as you go down, it gets even faster. It's just that 4 to 5 is that nice volume where you got capacity of manpower and high speed. Whereas as soon as you go past that, that's where you start to diminish in you, mainly because of human communication. We can't handle that extra level of volume of communication as you go past that 5. Sure. Politics starts to creep in again.
Interesting reflection on that team of 5 is for most teams around, you know, huddle boards or whatever, tends to be like 15 or, you know, 12, 15, 20. At Toyota, it's typically 4 to 6.
Yeah.
Interesting reflection. They sort of knew some of this stuff intuitively, and that's what the team size
I was training at Perfect Potion yesterday. They're an amazing company, Peter. These guys make oils and, you know, scents and soaps and things out of natural items. Amazing. And Dino, the factory manager there, was saying to me, "Oh, Brad, I did my first huddle or scrum with the team and they didn't seem engaged." And we went through some training, and at the end of he came up to me and said, "Brad, I think the problem was because there was 10 of them. You know, they're standing there, it's too big, there's too many, they couldn't feel they could engage. Tomorrow I'm going to just do it with, there's a clear split for me to go to 5-5. I can do it so easy." Okay, cool. He rang me up, you know, it's just instant outcomes.
Yeah. Right, good. Well, outcome of this is we need to let you get to bed because it's sort of midnight or something over there. So thanks very much for that. Very interesting to hear about that and different examples. So I'll hand over to Emma to close us down for the day.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brad. Excellent webinar, really, really interesting stuff. So if you'd like to find out more about the Enterprise Excellence Network or more from Brad, there will be a follow-up email sent. And in that, there's also some feedback, which we would be very grateful for, and also upcoming webinars. So yes, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
I really appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Okay, bye now.
See you.